Would you believe this is a snap-together kit that can be assembled with no glue? The fit and sturdiness is remarkably good considering that no adhesive is required, but I did use a little in a few places because I have trust issues. Let's have a look at how this goes together. It's Tamiya's Newman Haas Lola Indycar from 1993, a 120 scale plastic kit moulded in white and black, plus smoke tinted windscreen and rubber tyres. This one is the road course version with the big front and rear wings and different side pod profile to the speedway version of the same car. More about that in a moment. This is a bit of a retro review because I actually built this kit back in 2016 and it's held up remarkably well, except for the clear film on the decals, which has yellowed a little. I went with the Nigel Mansell number 5 version as per the box art, but the kit also includes markings for Mario Andretti's number 6. As you can see, there's a lot of decoration included in this kit and it's still very much intact. There is no clear coat on this model, and the glossy water slides were applied straight to the painted surface and went down really well. This kit was a risky step for Tamiya. It's from the American Indycar Series and was engineered to be an easy-to-build, snap-together kit. I can only assume they were trying to break into alternative markets and perhaps a younger demographic, but who knows. The fact it's a Snap-Loc kit actually presents a problem if you have the habit of test-fitting parts as you build, because you can accidentally clip the parts together when you're just checking things out. You just have to trust that Tamiya's engineering is of a high enough standard that all you need to do is prep and paint the parts and they'll all fit fine. And from what I can recall of the build, that is pretty much how most of it went. There was no moulding flash and only minimal seam lines to clean up, and it was while preparing the body parts I decided to cut the side pods off. Why? Well, the engine cover and side pods are moulded as one piece in the kit, and due to the way it mounts, it was going to be difficult to remove and refit the bodywork. Also, other than a basic cooler, there is no extra detail to be exposed when the side pod covers come off, so why not leave them in place? In real life, the engine cover can come off separately, so that's what happens on my version. To make the cut, I just dragged the hobby knife back and forth along the panel line and it soon cut through. Because the panel line is also a colour separation with the livery, it's not too noticeable. But if the model was all the one colour, I think it would be very noticeable because it's actually quite a wide gap. The Lola branding cast into the wheel rims has been replicated, as it has on the bell housing. The front wing includes the inner body turning vanes and the stepped airflow splitter under the nose. This is essentially a proper ground effect car with the underbody tunnels, and even the teardrop shaped central section tapers up at the rear. The fuel filler position varied from race to race, so you can fit that on either the left or the right, and there's a blank piece of bodywork to cover over the port on the opposite side. Both of these parts fit to the model from the inside prior to assembly. The entire rear wing is one piece. Great time saver for assembly, but a bit of a challenge for painting. These cars still utilised manual gear shift, so that's included in the cockpit detail, plus a digital dash which is a decal. It's got the headrest padding as a separate part, and the seat belts are moulded into the seat and have been brush painted. The bottom edges of the monocoque are part of the main floor piece, which means there's this annoying panel line running along the lower edge, which does not appear on the real car. I mostly used Tamiya paints, decanted from rattle cans and run through the airbrush. Gloss black and pure white for the bodywork, and semi-gloss black and a silver colour for the floor. The outer bodywork did receive a very light polish with Tamiya compound, but there was no wet sanding or anything like that. After the main tub was sprayed white, it's then masked up for the semi-gloss black areas to be painted, but there is absolutely no reason to paint this section of the monocoque. The top body cover, when it snaps in place over the top, renders this invisible. I guess you could make it removable and detail this area with some scratch-built springs or 3D parts, but for an out-of-box build, no need. And the inside surfaces, that was just brush painted by hand. Reflective bare metal foil was applied to the rear bulkhead to replicate heat shielding. Something the instructions missed, this area on top of the fuel tank is carbon fibre, so it should be painted a black colour and not left white like the instructions infer. Painting the floor, I started out spraying the front section several coats of white, then masked that off and sprayed semi-gloss black, and then masked all of that off and sprayed the silver area for the engine bay. This front cover on the cockpit is a perfect fit. It almost looks like it's moulded into the tub. Once all the parts had been painted, the assembly was fairly straightforward, and things just clipped in or are retained by press fit. And on a couple of things, I just used a dab of Tamiya extra thin cement just to prevent them from rattling a couple of the engine parts and just making sure the tub was properly fixed to the floor, that sort of thing. But the kit doesn't need it. I just felt it gave a little bit more of a solid foundation. Instead of painting the mirror lenses, I used small pieces of bare metal foil. The wheels do rotate and the fronts are steerable if you want to have an angled pose. Biggest trick to pull was the turbo inlet cover. It's actually a clear piece to replicate a mesh cover, but 2/3 of it need to be painted, and it has to go over the Gillette signage and under the BASF logo at the same time. Now, the Gillette and BASF and Dirt Devil and Energizer, they're all the one big decal, so it had to be carefully sliced and manipulated to apply it to the model at the same time that the parts clipped in. The engine and exhaust are a little lacking compared to some of Tamiya's older F1 kits. I think it's the fact that it is a Snap-Loc kit. That's probably why the bell housing and turbo area is a little sloppy is not the right word. It just doesn't have the detail and clarity we've come to expect. But there is a good base for improvement if that's an avenue you wanted to pursue. The exhaust system was brush painted with Testa's silver chrome trim, which was an enamel paint that was brilliant to work with. The rear suspension looks a bit tricky, but it went together fine. The rear push rods are not symmetrical, and neither is the rear bodywork, so getting the engine cover on and off requires a little bit of a twist to make it fit in between some of the rods here. Tamiya has done 2 versions of the Lola Indycar, the other being a super speedway version with really small wings and different side pod profile for the high-speed tracks. It's the Raoul Bursell Duracell car that, at the time of recording, I've yet to build. This speedway version, plus some aftermarket decals, allows you to build a range of cars that competed in the Indianapolis 500, and I'd like to do a few of those if I can stumble across some really cheap donor kits. I'd also like to build up one of the Salvino's JR models Indy cars and compare that against the Tamiya. Same scale, same series, 30 years apart. Let's put that on the to-do list. Cheers.